Hey guys, so in this video let us learn how we can use Docker extension for VS Code to boost up our Docker development, deployment and managing of Docker containers. So before we start, I'd like to start with a brief introduction about myself. So I'm Swaminathan Vetri. So I work as an architect at Maersk. I'm also a Microsoft MVP and the Developer Technologies. I'm a member of .NET Foundation and I organize a couple of meetups in Bangalore, B.NET and X Hackers. And I'm also a co-organizer of Bangalore Azure Meetup. And I do write my technical blogs at swaminathanvetri.in, and my YouTube channel is youtube.com/swaminathanvetri. So if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go ahead and subscribe, and then you get to watch all the upcoming videos, and also you can go and watch the previous videos too. So with that quick introduction, I would like to start with the demo of the entire session. So we're going to start with the Docker extension. Like I mentioned, we're going to look at the Docker extension for VS Code. So to get started, right? So I have my VS Code installed, and also I have a Docker desktop for Windows installed in my machine. So those are some of the prerequisites if you want to follow along whatever I'm doing in this particular video. So if you are on VS Code, just go to Extensions tab and then hit and then type Docker. You should be able to see this extension from Microsoft, which is what we are going to take a look at it today. So once you have this installed, I have it already installed, so it just was the uninstall option. So once you have this installed, it adds a nice icon into your navigation bar. And when you go and click on that, you can see the different options what it has enabled for us. So you get to see the visibility of all the containers which are running and also stopped in your Docker host. And you get to see all the images which are being available or which are already pulled into this machine, and the registries which you are connected to. So I've just connected to Docker Hub, so it just shows that particular thing for me. And you also get to see the different networks which are created by the Docker, and also if there are any other volume modes which happened on your Docker by any of your containers, you get to see that as well. And also you can also manage the context. In this case, I just have only one Docker host which is connected to my Docker desktop. If in case you are connecting the same Docker CLI to a Kubernetes cluster or Docker Swarm, or so, you get to see the clusters here, and then you will get the option to change the different clusters. And if you need any help or anything else, you can always go back and go here and then check out the documentation, review the issues and report any issues, and so on and so forth, right? So with that quick intro about what this extension adds into the VS Code, let's get into what it can do for us, right, from a developer perspective. So what I have here is a basic .NET Core based web API, basically. So let me just quickly show that. If I just do a .NET run, so this should be running the website in my local host, and then we'll be able to see what kind of endpoints it's exposing here. Yeah, so that's done. Okay, so if I just say weather forecast, yeah, so it's basically returning the data, right? Whatever the default, it's just a default .NET Core Web API is what I've used. So now from here, let's see how we can Dockerize this application using this extension, right? That's the first step what we are going to do. So before we do that, I would like to make a couple of changes to this controller to showcase that how just for us to understand how whether it is running from the machine or from the Docker container, right? So I'm going to add a new method called getHost. So nothing but it is just going to simply tell from which machine it is running, right? So let me quickly go ahead and do a .NET run here. So .NET and say run. Now when I hit this endpoint getHost, it should tell me from which host it is really running. So weather forecast /getHost is what I'm doing, and my PC name is Raji PC, so that's what it is showing up here. And now when we Dockerize and containerize this application, we get to see from where the actual container from where it is running. All right. So quickly let me go back here. I'm going to cancel this. Okay, so the first step for us is to add a Docker file to this, Dockerize this particular application, right? And the first step in doing, and how do we do that, is by adding a Docker file. So to do that, just press Ctrl+Shift+P if you're on Windows, or if you're on Mac, press Command+Shift+P, and then you get to see these, and type Docker there, and you get to see different options. So one of the things what I'm going to use now is Docker, add Docker files to Workspace. So when I do that, it gives all the options for different applications. So you can, it's not just excuse me, it's not just only for .NET Core based application. You can also Dockerize your Node.js application or Python, Java, C++, etc., etc. So in this case, since I'm using a .NET Core based web API, I'm going to choose that. And you also get the option to choose the operating system in which you want to run your container, be it Linux or Windows. So I'm going to stick to Linux here. And you also get an option to add Docker Compose files. So Docker Compose files are nothing but an orchestration file to let you know if, let's say, for your web API is dependent on a particular database to be up and running or so, right? You can use a Docker Compose file to bring both of them together. So for simplicity in this demo, I'm not going to use any Docker Compose file. It's going to be a single container application. So I'm going to say no. And the default ports, I'm going to leave it as is. And once you complete that, right, the extension does the magic for you, and then it adds the Docker file. So basically what it is trying to do is, this is a basic multi-stage Docker file. So here we are using this as a base image, which is nothing but the .NET Core, ASP.NET Core with version 3.1. And we are setting the Workday or as app, and then we're exposing these two ports. And for the building the application, right, we're using an SDK, basically .NET Core 3.1 SDK image as a base image, and then we're trying to build our entire application there. And once the app is built, we're kind of publishing that into this particular working directory. And from that published directory, we are trying to run the application. So that's what this entire Docker file is doing, right? So now that's how easily we were able to create the Docker file, right? We don't have to really go and code any other things. So if in case you need to modify some of them, right, then also you can take the help of extension. So if you go and click and then say add or something, right, it just goes and gives you the add source and directory. If you want to add any other things, you can use that. So pretty much for all the Docker commands, you get the intelligence here, and then as you can see here, these are the different Docker commands which are available, and it provides those intelligence options for us, which is a nice way for us to get started or get going with the Docker image. So now that I have the Docker image built, I'm going to I have the Docker file created, and next step is to go ahead and create the Docker image, right? So to do that, again, press Ctrl+Shift+P and then say Docker, say Docker, and then say build image. And then all it does is it's going to run the Docker build command, and then it is going to build the image for you. So if in case you're running this step for the first time, it will take a bit more longer time, because it needs to pull down all the email layers which this particular Docker file is dependent on. I have just done that some time back, so I'm going to just so it's a bit faster for me. All right, I think this should be done. So now, how do we know if it's complete and what it has created, right? So if you scroll a little up in the console, you can see the command what it has run, right? So it says Docker build, and then --rm is to remove the things, and then just say the name of it is Docker extend demo :latest. So this is the name of my image, Docker extend demo, and :latest is the tag. So now let's use the Explorer which we have from here to go and check if the image is available or not. So if you go to the images and then just quickly refresh just to see it refreshes, and as you can see already there, the Docker extension demo is there here, right? So this is the latest is the demo, latest is the tag what it created, and you can also directly go ahead and click and then run here. So when you run, it might fail a bit because we're trying to use the port 80 here. Yeah, so let's quickly just make that one change in our so what I'm going to do now is, for now, I'm going to remove this and then say 5000. Okay, so before I do that, I just need to disable the HTTPS, just in case I don't want to check on the HTTPS errors or anything now. So I'm gonna go here and then say comment and save this file. And I'm going to check once to see if it is able to run properly. Doing a .NET run. Now it shouldn't really be doing any HTTPS redirection. So when I hit HTTP localhost 5000, it should still say yes, Raji PC. So which is what is my PC. So this change is all working good. So what I'm going to do now is just Ctrl+C. And then go ahead and build the Docker image again, right? Build image, so that this change also gets into the image. Okay, let's just give it a couple more seconds. Okay, all right, I think it's done. Okay, so now if you go back to your Explorer here and just say latest a few seconds ago, so that means it's just the latest build is what it has done. And again, I'm going to click here and then say run, and this is going to fail. And what I will do next is just remove this and do a port mapping of 5000 to my 80. So basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to move my host port 5000, and then I'm mapping that to the Docker port 880 into the Docker container, so that I will be able to access the application via localhost colon 5000. So now if I just do the same thing, so as you can see here, it's showing up a different name here, right? D2CE94CC whatever. So now if you go back to the image here, or the container here, you can see that the first few characters, this is what is printed, that D2CE94CC8C. That's exactly what we see here until the 7.2. So that means this particular image is now running from a container. So obviously then they should have a container listed here, right? So when you go down here and then do a quick refresh, you can see that Docker extension demo, and then you can right click and you can also view the logs of that particular image. And as you can see, this is just showing up here. So I just added a quick log so that we'll know that if it's really writing or coming up from here. So if I go ahead and refresh this, you must see another log showing up here. See, as you can see, there are three statements now. And I go ahead and refresh once more, so it added one more. So that means whenever you access your application running within a Docker container, you get to see the logs live coming up in this in the console here. Yeah, so that's about how you can manage your logs and everything from the container. And if you want to stop the image, you can also right click here and then say just stop, and it is going to just stop your application. So now if I go back and Control R, it would fail because obviously the container is stopped now. Yeah, okay, that's cool so far. So now what if you want to debug your application running within a container, right? So even that's possible with this extension, but the only caveat is this particular extension currently works for .NET Core or Node.js based applications around which are running within the containers. What I mean is the debugging functionality is applicable only for the application built using .NET Core or Node.js. So to do that, just click on this run here, and then if you go down and select this, click on this drop down, you can see this Docker.NET Core launch. So if you click on that and then press this green button, it should start the container, and then it should attach the debugger to the container itself. So as it does that, let me go ahead and put some breakpoints in my application. So maybe I'll take the same method. So I'll go ahead and put a breakpoint here, like F9 get host. Now this is where it is running, and I'm going to say weather forecast / get host. Okay, so as you can see, it has hit the debugger here, and now I just have only one line, so I'm just going to go through. So you can go and see all the locals and everything available here. What's your logger, blah blah blah, everything else is there. You can also do your watch, and then you get a call stack and everything. So basically we have now attached our debugger to the application which is running within the container. So now I'll just say F10, and then it gives me the container name 83EAF, and then I say F10, and I can just click play, and then it returns the data here. So it's the same name what is available here. So that's powerful. So that's more helpful for the developers to see how your application is behaving or running within the container. So I'm going to quickly stop that. Yeah. So to explore more of the other options, what it gives, just press Ctrl+Shift+P and then say Docker. And there are different options available for Docker, and then there are different things available for Docker images, and you can also do some of your Docker containers inspection and everything here, right? So one other thing what I'm going to do now is, as you saw here, right? So in my Container Explorer, if I go and open, you see there are so many containers which have been stopped. So obviously I've not used the --rm rm argument when I run the container. So though the container is stopped, it's not cleaned up here, right? So the one way to easily clean up that is go here and then say Docker images, and then say prune, and that is going to remove all the dangling images. So I'm going to say remove, and it would try and go ahead and prune all the images which are not really used or so. Oops, I think I did a .NET images prune and not okay, so I think now it would have just pruned a lot of my other images which were not really being used in the past, and I could see that it reclaimed like around 4021 MB of space, which is a very good very good space. And I can also say Docker containers and then say prune. So this is going to remove all the containers which have been stopped and which is not really removed. So when I do that, it is going to it removed all my 41 containers. So now when I open this containers tab, you can see the only one which is currently running, right? So those are some of the good things. Instead of we going and remembering all of these commands and then going and typing in the console or so, it's much easier to do with this GUI here. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to show. So basically we started with adding the Docker files to the workspace. We understood how easy it is to add a Docker file, and then to build a Docker image, and also to view the logs of the Docker image, view the logs of the container in which your application is running. And we also went ahead and saw how we can debug the entire application which is running within the Docker container. And we also saw some more other management activities, like how do you remove your unused images and removing the unused containers, etc. And there's a lot more which can be done with this particular extension, and it's much useful whether you are a newbie to Docker or you are a pro. It's always good to get a visualized view of all your containers and the images, what's there in it. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to show. So if you like this video, please watch, share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.